Okay, this is part two because I got cut off. So let's start up here. I'm gonna probably interject at this point.
Centuries and centuries to what we say now, like finna and stow. And that, if that were the case, I get it. There's somewhat of an attachment to what black people came to the United States with. It stuck with them, and it stayed for centuries and centuries. But I looked into this, and specifically a book by Tom Sowell called Black Rednecks and White Liberals.
It's really weird as far as the whole situation with some of the other things that are being talked about here. Okay, so for example, the situation with black people, how they came here, like black Americans. We're talking about the people who were stolen from Africa or sold from Africa or whatever. They were not coming over here, one. So they didn't come over here with some culture that they brought from home to here, okay? Let's deal with the reality of slavery. The reality of slavery is we have no fucking culture. Sorry. It's just the truth. We don't. We don't have any customs. We don't have anything that came from Africa besides race. And the reason we don't is because of slavery. And slavery was a bad, bad thing. So why don't we give it its accolades for being actually a bad thing? What do I mean by that? Well, you have this whole idea that people would come to this country, and who are they giving this culture to? Yeah, they're going to give it to their kids? Oh, you didn't pay attention to slavery now, did you? Now, you didn't pay attention to slavery at all. Slavery made it where you didn't have your kids with you. Families were broken apart. So there was no such thing as giving customs to kids. So it's not like the Africans could have ever had a language to pass down to their descendants. You know, it's not like they could have a culture to pass down to descendants. The things we call a part of things brought down from Africa are things that their children and the families got sold to another family. Some random African goes off and teaches those kids that custom. That is not those kids' customs. It's not their family customs. It's got nothing to do with them. So the nonsense that you guys talk about with Africans bringing black Americans anything is bullcrap. Because it's slavery. Slavery was a bad thing. Everyone agrees slavery was a bad thing. And let's be real with how bad it was. Because there is no trace of black Americans' culture having to do with the actual Africans that they descend from. If it did, you would find that black Americans would not have any unison in customs. Because when you look at Africans, they don't have the unison in customs, culture, or language, or even frickin' race, okay? This is just the complete truth here, okay? I don't know what else to tell you. You know, I get tired of things like this. This gets me annoyed because we're thinking in the idea where you want to say slavery and everything, and you know that's how black people got to America, got taken into America, was from the desire to get slaves. But you'd never pay attention to what slavery did to black American people. Also added to the fact that technically black Americans aren't even the descendants of Africans only. They're actually the descendants of Europeans, too. So that's why it's always annoying when they say that, oh, the culture that we were taught among our families is not ours. No, it is yours. It literally is. When you say that it was influenced by white people, well, you are the descendants of white people. So, I mean, like, this is a whole denial thing just because some racist person told them that they can't acknowledge the culture that they come from and who they descend from, for that matter. But the truth is, the Black Americans that are today have a culture and customs not specific to Black Americans, but specific to what they were taught to have, basically. What they were allowed to have. And what they were allowed to have was an American culture. This is why I'm talking to you in English. This is not specifically you're African, but other people, other Black American people are speaking English and only know English because of that reason. The reason there's broken English is because, like I said, broken English is associated with bad things, basically. Bad reputation, bad education, bad area you grew up in, bad parenting. Well, what else is included with bad? By these people's definition, Black is associated with bad to these type of people. And that's why they hold on to the idea that speaking poorly and speaking broken English is a quality that has to do with, specifically speaking, like a Black person, basically. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth at all. But I just was pointing that out. Let's go.
Where he talks about the origins of African American vernacular English. And I think you'll be shocked to hear this too. It actually came from white Southerners living in the United States. And those white Southerners got it back from England, where they were living before immigrating to the United States, specifically Southern and Western England. And when these white Southerners came and took their roots in the United States, they were looked down upon by people living up in the North for the way that they spoke, the crime that they involved themselves in, how broken their families were, and Northern white people looked down upon Southern white people for the language, among all those other reasons that I stated before. So let's break down the differences in language between Northern and Southern white people in the United States of America. And this predates when Black people were using this language. A Northern person would say, I am, you are, she isn't, it doesn't, I haven't. A Southern white person, specifically in Virginia, would say, I be, you be, she ain't, it don't, I ain't. Are we hearing the similarities to how some Black people speak today? I'm hearing it. It's pretty clear. And if you want to go even further back into the 17th century,
you can pay attention to a lot of things that Black Americans claim is a part of Black American culture is actually a part of Southern culture. That's just what tends to be the case. And it's very annoying when you are a Black American who doesn't have Southern roots, so you have Northern roots. And so, many of the cuisine is associated with Southern people, and it's not specific to Black people, and it's not specific to white people, really. It's just specific to the region of Americans in that area, but they will try to act like it's not, and it's just a Black thing. The reason why they do this is because they want something for themselves. And they don't have anything for themselves because of slavery, and that's just the truth. It's not like I'm trying to lie and act like it's not. There is a culture, there is a language, there is a custom that was passed down. I don't understand, how do people expect there to be a custom brought down when you have generations after generations of people since the 1600s, since the 1700s? You see how many generations that is in slavery? That's like, 6, 7, 8, 5, generations at least in slavery. And you mean to tell me that they were able to keep their families intact when they just kept being sold all about and having their families split all about? If their families have always been split all about and so forth, and this has been happening for 6 generations at least, I can promise you there aren't going to be any customs that are being passed down that have to do with the Africans. It's going to have to do with, I guess, maybe the whole situation with their white side. That's what it's going to have to do with. So that's all I have to say there. Continue.
So the 1600s we're talking about, in southern and western England, here are some examples of words they would use. Instead of ask, they'd say axe.
Axe.
Which, if we look back at our glossary, is right on the AAVE glossary. Instead of you, they'd say y'all. Instead of door, they'd say dough. Instead of this, they'd say dis. Instead of that, they'd say dat. And they even used chitlins, which is something that black people have attached themselves to, that word in particular, for food that they eat, innards that they eat. So, all of this to say...
Oh, so chitlins aren't really an actual food? It's just anything you eat, or what? I've heard of that word. I've heard of a lot of Southern food. And, when you don't know about Southern cuisine, it's always like a lot of the time, a lot of different people who are black will act like, how do you not know about Southern food? It's like there are Southern Black Americans and there are Northern Black Americans. That's what's annoying to me, because it's like not everyone is, Southern. But yeah, anyway, continue.
Not only are black people, some black people, not all black people, choosing to gatekeep and hold on to a language that is not going to serve them, is not going to bring them success, prosperity, or respect, but they're also holding on to language that comes from white Southerners. So here we are in this talk of cultural appropriation and white people stealing AAVE, when you actually go back to the origins, African American vernacular English probably isn't the right word for it, because it in fact came from white Southerners who got that from their English backgrounds in Southern and Western.
You hear both black people and white people speaking this way. That's why I don't get why they would just assume that the Southern dialect is a part of black vernacular. But I guess it's kind of like the same with the cuisine. Like they assume that the cuisine is specifically black and so forth. So that's not really, I guess, too much of a shock.
England in the 17th century. Y'all finna be pissed when y'all hear that. So, to summarize, language should not be gatekept by anybody, any culture, any group of people. We should all be free to use the language that we want to use. And if we are going to gatekeep a set of words or phrases, we better make sure that it's our culture and our group of people that actually came up with those words, that we're the ones who...
But you have to understand that that's never going to happen. Because, like I said, the only way that's going to happen is if you track exactly who you came from. Yeah, you have to understand, Black Americans don't come from the same people. See, this is what I mean. You guys have all these weird things that you think of in your head about Black American. So Black American, African is all one thing now. It's all one people. Go over there, okay, and tell those people who are killing each other, okay, fighting each other, that they're all the same. They all have the same culture, same customs, and that they're all the same people. They would laugh in your face, maybe even try to kill you. And you're trying to say that they're all the same people. that Black Americans are all the same people. Because if Black Americans were all the same people, when we take DNA tests, we would come up with the same things. We don't. Some come up with Nigerian ancestry. Then, when you get Nigerian ancestry, it doesn't even mean you're from the same people. There's tons of tribes there. And then you have a lot of other people, like Cameroonian people. You know, you have the people from Ghana. You have the people from Cote d'Ivoire. You have people from Senegal. You have people from Sierra Leone. You have people from Mali. You know, you have so many different people. Now, all the countries I listed, there's tons of people in those places. You know, no specific people are there.